Not that she'd ever admit it, of course. "I'll tell you what," her mom went on. She went to the closet and put the suitcase on the bed. "Why don't you talk while you pack?" I wouldn't even know where to start. "How about at the beginning? Jonah mentioned something about turtles?" Ronnie crossed her arms, knowing the story hadn't started there. "Not really," she said, "even though I wasn't there when it happened. I think the summer really began with the fire." "What fire?" Ronnie reached for the stack of photographs on the bedstand and gently removed a tattered newspaper article sandwiched between two framed photos. She handed the yellowing newsprint to her mother. "This fire," she said. "The one at the church. Illegal fireworks suspected in church blaze. Pastor injured. Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. A fire destroyed historic First Baptist Church on New Year's Eve, and investigators suspect illegal fireworks. Firefighters were summoned by an anonymous caller to the beachfront church just after midnight and found flames and smoke pouring from the back of the structure," said Tim Ryan, chief of the Wrightsville Beach Fire Department. The remains of a bottle rocket and airborne firework were found at the source of the blaze. Pastor Charlie Harris was inside the church when the fire started and suffered second-degree burns to his arms and hands. He was transported to New Hanover Regional Medical Center and is currently in the intensive care unit. It was the second church fire in as many months in New Hanover County. In November, Good Hope Covenant Church in Wilmington was completely destroyed. Investigators are still treating it as suspicious and as a case of potential arson at this point, Ryan noted. Witnesses report that less than 20 minutes before the fire, bottle rockets were seen being launched on the beach behind the church, likely in celebration of the new year. Bottle rockets are illegal in North Carolina and are especially dangerous considering the recent drought conditions, cautioned Ryan. This fire shows the reason why. A man is in the hospital, and the church is a total loss. When her mom finished reading, she looked up, meeting Ronnie's eyes. Ronnie hesitated. Then with a sigh, she began to tell a story that still felt utterly senseless to her, even with the benefit of hindsight. Chapter 1. Ronnie. 6 months earlier. Ronnie slouched in the front seat of the car, wondering why on earth her mom and dad hated her so much. It was the only thing that could explain why she was here visiting her dad in this godforsaken southern armpit of a place, instead of spending time with her friends back home in Manhattan. No, scratch that. She wasn't just visiting her dad. Visiting implied a weekend or two, maybe even a week. She supposed she could live with a visit. But to stay until late August, pretty much the entire summer, that was banishment. And for most of the 9 hours it had taken them to drive down, she'd felt like a prisoner being transferred to a rural penitentiary. She couldn't believe her mom was actually going to make her go through with this. Ronnie was so enveloped in misery, it took a second for her to recognize Mozart's Sonata No. 16 in C major. It was one of the pieces she had performed at Carnegie Hall 4 years ago, and she knew her mom had put it on while Ronnie was sleeping. Too bad. Ronnie reached over to turn it off. "Why'd you do that?" her mom said, frowning. "I like hearing you play." "I don't." "How about if I turn the volume down?" "Just stop, Mom, okay? I'm not in the mood." Ronnie stared out the window, knowing full well that her mom's lips had just formed a tight seam. Her mom did that a lot these days. It was as if her lips were magnetized. "I think I saw a pelican when we crossed the bridge to Wrightsville Beach," her mom commented with forced lightness. "Gee, that's swell. Maybe you should call the crocodile hunter?" "He died," Jonah said, his voice floating up from the back seat, the sounds mingling with those of his Game Boy. Her 10-year-old pain-in-the-butt brother was addicted to the thing. "Don't you remember?" he went on. "It was really sad." "Of course I remember." "You didn't sound like you remembered." "Well, I did." "Then you shouldn't have said what you just said." She didn't bother to respond a third time. Her brother always needed the last word. It drove her crazy.